Good morning. I'm Joanne Wong, Director of Corporate Services here at the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. And here today, I have the team from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island. They are going to talk about their procurement process and supplier diversity program. And before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island for being a silver level annual sponsor. Your support and partnership really helps with our MBE programming, and we can't do this work without you. And I also want to say a hearty congratulations to your organization for winning the 2023 Local Corporation of the Year Award. So congrats. And just a few housekeeping items before we go ahead and get started. We are recording this session and it will be available on our YouTube page. We also will be sharing the presentation at the close of the event. And we will have time for Q&A after the presentation. So you can either ask your questions directly using the raise hand function, or you can put your question in the Q&A box, but we would prefer a direct question since oftentimes there's follow-ups, etc. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Jenny Bautista Braverby, and let's go ahead and get started.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanne. You can go ahead to the next slide. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time this morning to learn a little bit more about our organization. We have a big presence nationally, but we really run our local chapter here in a really local way, thinking about how small our state is. We've been around for about 85 years now, and we really focus on improving the health and well-being by leading access to high quality, affordable, and equitable care. So we really pride ourselves in our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work. My primary focus is leading a lot of this work alongside some of my colleagues, some of them who are on this call. And within that DEIB effort, we have a framework around the 4 Ps, being people, policy, purchasing, and philanthropy. So purchasing is a huge part of the work that we do with our supplier diversity work. So we're really excited to be able to engage with some of the businesses here this morning to learn more about how we do work here with our supplier diversity program and how you can be a part of that work. Joanne, you can go to the next slide. So as I had mentioned, our 4 Ps framework, one of them is the people component. So we just want to share a dashboard that we share on an annual basis. It gives you a snapshot of our associate base here for the Rhode Island Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we really try to diversify not just our diverse suppliers, but also our individuals who are leading the work internally. So you can see the breakdown here by race and ethnicity, gender, generation as well, and just overall engagement. So there is a lot of energy and focus on our DEIB work across the board, and our supplier diversity efforts play a big part in that too. So I'll pass it over to my colleague Mike, who's going to go into a little bit more about the procurement process with us to give you some of that insight.
Thanks, Jay. Joanne, you can jump ahead to the next slide, please. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to sit with us today. Excited to present this information to you, but also answer any questions that you might have here. So kind of want to just level set what we buy here at Blue Cross. We procure several different types of services that either directly or indirectly impact our members. All of this is done with a focus on delivering that top-notch service to the members, which we provide our services to. So you'll find that we have some very general business purchases, things that are not industry specific, IT, staffing solutions, advertising, and general business functionality as well. But then there's some that are very specific and niche to our industry, right? The healthcare. How do we service our members, right? An example of one might be a grocery delivery service that we provide to our members. We are always looking to influence how we can better support our members navigating through the healthcare system and trying to provide, again, that top-notch service. Can go ahead and jump to the next slide, Joanne. Thank you. So when you're interested in working with Blue Cross, I want to give you some understanding of what we're looking for from our suppliers here. We touch on a couple different things. Obviously, service, fit, and cost are important for any business, but we also need to understand, are we managing risk as well? And we are a regulated industry. We have a lot of compliance requirements as well. So part of what we want to do is not only understand that you can do what you say you can do for a fair price, but also want to assess some of the risk that would be associated in some of these different services and assess the suppliers for demonstrated track record, ability to demonstrate compliance and financial stability. And obviously we like to see that there's a commitment to deliver the quality that is sold to us. So sometimes we're looking for SLAs or PGs, but overarching, we just want to ensure quality. We can go ahead and jump to the next slide, Joanne. Thank you. So how to register? And I think Doris will have a little bit more information here as well, but we have a portal with which we register our vendors. There's some basic legal information, about your entity we're going to look for, your TIN, W-9, all that information. And all this is us gathering you, setting up your profile, but really to kind of really engage further at a deeper level, we're going to look to get under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, to have a deeper conversation about the services that we're trying to procure there. I think you can jump to the next slide. So let's say you get registered and we're ready to get into a sourcing event, whether an RFP or an RFQ or an RFI. How can you put your best foot forward, right? Obviously, you want to be competitive and understand the industry, what your peers might be offering. So we have the best competitive pricing. Obviously, you want to have prompt and accurate communication. A lot of times there's a lot of back and forth as we get into these events. We want to make sure that we have quick turnarounds, and be open and honest about your strengths and weaknesses. Doesn't help either of us to overcommit, right, to anything. So it's just better to have that transparency there. Different certifications are always a plus. We want to have that confidence, right? As I kind of talked about a little earlier, we want to have assess the risk of doing new business with a new partner. So anything that helps build that case is really helpful. And even if it's not the right fit and you can't participate, just communicate that, right? It's okay. We'd rather know. And then if we have someone that communicates with us, the more likely to get the next event, even if this isn't the right one or they can't deliver here. So I think that's all I had to kind of tee us up for how to do participate in an event and get registered. So I'm going to pass it along to Doris to give a little bit more information.
Yes, thank you, Mike. And Joanne, we can move to the next slide. As Mike mentioned earlier, a ton of gratitude for connecting to this webinar this morning. We know that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, and that you have to juggle so many different things at a given time. And so we appreciate you setting aside the time to invest not only in yourself, but also in prospecting future opportunities for your business. And so we are very excited about that, and excited about these kind of partnerships. And I'm going to talk about partnerships later on in the presentation, because these partnerships that we have with organizations such as and EMSDC are critical to enable us to increase our capacity and to support the work that you do in the trenches. So at BCBSRI, we fully understand that diversity powers the future. And so we also know that a business is only as good as its supply chain. And a supplier diversity program is only as good as the diverse suppliers that we can identify and bring into the supply chain. I'm Doris de los Santos, and I'm the Director of Supplier Diversity for BCBSRI. And we have done tremendous work throughout several years, and we are looking forward to the future and engaging with you. But please know that through our supplier diversity program, we are aiming at maximizing opportunities for businesses like you to do business with BCBSRI. We are also aiming at fostering a culture that promotes sustainable economic development of suppliers like you and BEs throughout the communities we serve. We are also working in building that partnerships, and those partnerships with suppliers to create value. As Mike have mentioned before, it needs to be bidirectional. It needs to make sense to you, but it also needs to make sense to our enterprise and the members that we serve, so that we can offer an exceptional service to our members. We are also looking at activating our commitment to inclusion, equity, and comprehensive health and well-being by investing in our communities, as Jenny mentioned at the beginning, because DE&I is part of BCBSRI DNA. So many letters there, right? Because we also want to build an economic sustainability and empower communities that typically have been underrepresented, by creating jobs, by tapping into job growth, and increasing the tax base of the local communities. And so to that effect, we have also engaged in the work of setting corporate goals for the work that we do. And I'm sure that you will get excited about these goals, because it only means opportunities for you. Joanne, can we go to the next slide? And so with that, we wanted to present just a flavor of some of the goals that we have set to hold ourselves accountable to this work. And so as you can see, part of our mission is to increase our procurement of those products and services that Mike listed. And as you know, that those lists may be fluid from time to time, needs changes, and so what we buy changes. But be mindful that we are really looking at increasing our procurement of products and services from diverse businesses, inclusive of minority-owned, women-owned, LGBTQ plus owned, disability, veteran, and a few other designations that are really determined by the federal government, like a small disadvantaged service disabled veterans and the hubs on business enterprises, as well as engaging with our local small businesses. because we know that investing in partnering with a diverse supplier base needs to be reflective again of those customers that we serve. And so to that end, we have set a goal of increasing by 22 the number of diverse suppliers that are registered with us in our vendor management system. And so we engage in activities like this one to make sure that we are staying in touch with you and that we are creating that pipeline. We have also set a goal of 8% diverse spend. And so you should know that this is an approximately 80% increase over last year's goal. And currently year to date, we are about hovering between 2.5, 2.6%. And I'm sharing this with you just to get you excited about the fact that that only means, again, opportunities for you as we continue identifying priorities and needs for the enterprise, and matching those needs with vendors like you, companies like you that may be in alignment with meeting the expectations that we have of quality, of pricing, and mitigating risks. And so I'm only going to bring those two because I think that those two goals that are in the screens are the ones that are more impactful to establishing this relationship and potentially moving us forward. If we can move to the next slide, please. And so, as I have mentioned before, and my colleagues as well, we are driven by the goal of diversifying our supply chain, but also understanding that we need to build and mature a good program, and to that end, we are measuring against top notch supplier diversity program so that we can get there. And so we are all the time looking at what our Blues networks are doing across the nation. As you probably know, we are part of a national network of Blues that are connected through the BCBSRI Association. However, we are managed and independent and managed and controlled independently. And so everything that we share with you today with respect to what we need and how we go about doing business is specifically applicable to Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Rhode Island. However, you should know that there is tremendous capacity and tremendous peer support among the Blues, but we also look elsewhere to make sure that we are measuring against, and that as we are setting goals, that we are aiming for building that pipeline to get us where we need to be. And so in that end, we understand that also to build a healthy and inclusive enterprise, MBEs must have full and fair access to the range of contracting opportunities. And we know that that one size doesn't fit all. And we are building a program that is a three-pronged approach, and that we are looking to tap into each one of those three pieces, being our tier one, which, as you may imagine, it is the bucket that we understand we can have the biggest direct impact. And so we are mindful of that, and so we are engaging with these kind of opportunities, keeping in mind that we are looking at increasing our tier one spend with businesses like you, so that we, for 2024, we can get to that goal of 8%. But that 8% is also inclusive of our tier 2 activities. And that we also know that tier 2 activities will allow us as a program to get to a new level. And through tier 2, we also know that we can influence how many of you may show and enter into the space. As Mike listed a number of things that we are expecting small businesses that are diverse to perform at certain levels. At times, even if there is an alignment, and even if you are able to mitigate risk and provide high quality products and services, the opportunity may not be there. And so being mindful of that, we are being intentional also at making sure that we are seeking opportunities at times with our own prime vendors that are tier 1, that are prime vendors non-diverse, to making sure that we are being creative enough and thinking out of the box, to making sure that we are connecting you with some potential opportunities. But we are also making sure that as we are engaging with businesses that are non-diverse, that we are communicating and messaging collectively that supplier diversity matters to us and is part of our corporate DNA, and that we are expecting them to engage with diverse suppliers and report to us that data so that we can account for that spend and include that as part of our overall supplier diversity program. There is a lot more there, but for matters of today, I will leave it there. But please know that we are looking at tier 2 as a twofold, as a way of influencing how our non-diverse businesses are engaging with diverse suppliers, but also being intentional in making those connections if we are able to. Now, the third prong of the approach is our supplier development efforts. And to that end, we have created a plan to support a rate of tactical engagement to support this strategy. Some of that I listed when I talked about tier 2, which is encouraging partnerships with primes when an opportunity to work with you it may not be present. Supporting the pursuit of diverse certification. Sometimes we come across with vendors or companies that while they may be certifiable, they are not certified yet. And so we want to be a conduit of support and making connections where appropriate, so that if you are certifiable, you can actually pursue the certification, and we are more than happy to support those efforts. We have been doing some informal mentorship and as recently joined GNMSTC as well in those efforts, officially signing on to be available and to support these activities that GNMSTC offers to their members. And so I know that sometime in the future, we will be matched with some small businesses that are members of GNMSTC so that we together can improve those conditions and be there to support your growth. Networking opportunities, we have participated of networking opportunities being scheduled and organized, but some of our partners, and you will see that information in, I think that in the next slide, who those partners are, but know that we understand the power of networking. And so we are in both ends, supporting partners that are organizing networkings, but we are also visioning networking opportunities to engage with you more directly. And with vendors, once a company becomes an active partner with us through our supply chain, then being more intentional in creating those opportunities and elevating the profile of the company internally. We are also participating, and this is also a two-folded, both externally and externally, of BCBSRI. So we are actively participating in panel speaking opportunities to elevate the work that we are doing around supplier diversity, but we are also building opportunities internally to elevate the work of the vendors that we are doing business with, because sometimes it may be a business line owner that belongs in a different division from where the existing company is doing business with. And so we realize that there is opportunities there to elevating vendors and companies that we are doing business with internally. There is a huge power there. And so things that we do, for example, are panel discussions or conversations or showcasing businesses in and internal engagements, again, to elevate and to expose the business with the goal of increasing spend. We are also, through the work of the partners that we have, we are able to connect our partners, and by partners in this context, I mean the vendors that we are currently doing business with technical assistance support through either the advocacy groups that we are members of or the partner organizations that we do business with. And some of that TA may range from information on access to capital, referral to prime vendors, which I alluded before, the MVE certification being the state or being the regional or the national, training around capability assessments and business plans. And so that gives you a sense of the array of support that we are building behind that supplier development prong approach. So we can move to the next one, please. And so I alluded before to the certification. BCBSRI, there are a multitude of supplier diversity programs out there, and you may know that we may all use different approaches with respect to the level of certification that we may be seeking. In the case of BCBSRI, we don't accept self-certifications. Neither we vet internally the certification that the business claim to have. That's why we have a partnership, and we are members of these advocacy groups that you see in the screen. With respect to MBEs, we have the relationship with GNMSTC. As you probably know, nationally, they are under the umbrella of NMSDC. At the local level, we understand that they are states and also municipalities that certify businesses as MBEs, and we also accept those certifications. But we do not accept self-certification. Like I said, in the case of businesses that are certifiable, we can establish a conversation, and we are more than willing to provide the necessary support to connect you with the appropriate certifying entity. As I mentioned before, our program is larger than MBEs, and what you have in front of you is the slide that includes all the certifications that are part of our supplier diversity program, and the organizations that are representing these certifications. Again, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran, LGBTQ+, disadvantaged and disability-owned businesses. We can move to the next slide. So as I mentioned, partnerships is critical to the work that we do, and I'm sure that you will agree to that. And so our dedication to supplier diversity is evident through that comprehensive list of programs and initiatives that we are either affiliated with or that are made available through the partnerships that we have with these organizations. And so we have actively sought to increase opportunities for MBEs and for other underrepresented groups. And this commitment is reflected in our proactive engagement because we really understand the importance of lifting MBEs through the support that we build through these partnerships. And so as you see, I understand that some of you may be local to Rhode Island, some of you may be regional and perhaps national, but we wanted to call out some of the either key or local partnerships that we have in addition to the ones that were included in the prior slide. Supply RI, which is in the state of Rhode Island Department of Commerce initiative to support these kind of efforts. We also have a growing relationships with multiple Chamber of Commerce, and there you have 3 listed here: the Northern Rhode Island, the Greater Providence, and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Rhode Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. In addition to that, we have a relationship in a corporate membership with the RIBA, or the Rhode Island Black Business Association. And also, we are one of the very few corporations in the state that are members of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Again, that sort of give you a sense of where our efforts are being spent. We can go to the next slide. And so part of this slide is a recap, and part of this is introducing you with a sort of like the pieces of parts of the steps that we want you to take from here. As Michael mentioned before, we have a vendor registration portal. And so because we want to be intentional, that we are engaging with diverse suppliers or suppliers that may be certifiable. We are encouraging you to use the link that will, it is here. And as Joanne mentioned, she will share the slide deck with you. So you will have a live link to use that will connect you to my schedule and the dates that we have preset for this kind of engagements that are Thursdays and Fridays. And so what I will suggest you is to go there and schedule a 30 minutes virtual meeting so that we can go more in depth, not only for us to understand your capabilities and what you have to offer and how do you see any alignment with us, but it will be also an opportunity for us to share some additional details and then determine next steps, which is part of step number 2 in the screen. So if there is an alignment, and let me caveat that by saying at that stage, we are not even talking about an opportunity yet, only a potential alignment. We will extend you an invitation to start registration process in the system, and I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty or the weeds of that. That will be part of our 30 minutes meeting. You will receive an invitation then to register into the system, and we will support you, and we have a team of people that will support you in that process. We also ask you to stay in touch. As you know, this is a sourcing and procurement and supplier diversity is at times an art or a contact sport that requires intentionality and effort, but also being smart in the process and also understanding that there are many of you out there and there are just a few of us in this end. And so what we suggest you once we establish an initial relationship to stay in touch, to keep us updated of changes with your company or certifications. We also are so much mindful of grace and giving each other's grace. But we ask and expect you to be in touch, providing us with updates. When and if an opportunity arises, there are many steps in between, and Mike alluded to one of those. Earlier, he talked about an NDA. Once an opportunity is prospected, we make, and once the company is registered, then we may get engaged in additional due diligence and risk management. And part of that is getting an NDA in place to then start conversations, which eventually may or may not lead to being invited to an RFP. So with that, I will ask Joanne to get us set for Q&A. At the end of the slide deck, you will see, not now, but when you receive it, that there is a glossary of terms. I suggest you review those because as we engage, those terms will become very important for you to understand. Again, with that, we are really grateful for your time, and we have some time here for Q&A.
Right, thank you so much. So let's start with our live questions. So Juan, I'm gonna allow you to talk if you can unmute yourself.
Yes.
And Joanne,
can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Doris. What was?
Yes, I'm sorry, Juan. Joanne, I'd be remiss if I don't mention that we are joined here by Elaine, who is part of today's bench to help us with answering questions. And we also have Christina. Mike, I'm not sure if you wanted to acknowledge that.
Yep, sure. Christina Pansini is new to the sourcing team, so we wanted to bring her along as well. She's the manager of the strategic sourcing team. So go ahead, Juan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and nice to meet you, Mike and Doris. Thank you, Joanne, for making this happen. I just want to say first that I met your team at the award gala. They were great. I love what you do, and it seems that you're really focused on diversity. So my question is, do you require to have an open RFP to work with you, or can we work with the different departments or different business units in small projects?
I don't think we require a need, right? I think that's probably what it is. So it doesn't how we meet that need with suppliers is more on my team, the sourcing team's discretion, right? Are we going to go through an RFP, a full RFP? And if it's smaller in scope, maybe that's, a bit too much. But that's why we want to have a bench in our system registered. So working with Doris to get you into our system helps us find business unit has a need. We can find that need met within our own network. And, it's obviously ideal when we can find a diverse candidate to support that need.
Perfect.
Question.
That answered my question. Yes. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Juan. All right, so if you do have questions, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you. And then in the meantime, we'll just answer the ones that have been building up in the Q&A box. So the first question we have is, what weight do you place on past performance with other BCBS affiliates? I understand everyone operates independently, but the service offerings, regulation, and compliance have many similarities.
I think that's a great question. Kind of what I was trying to highlight is how do you bring yourself to the table when doing business with us, if you can demonstrate, have a track record of not only doing what you say you can do, but doing it in our own industry, that's definitely will give you a leg up, or will, raise our attention. So while we are different, we're not that different. I think that's kind of what you're getting at, right? We kind of are all doing the same general business. There are a lot of similar systems that we're working on too. So I think that's a great way to add that as a reference to an event, or to call that out when you're doing business with us.
Thank
And
you.
I will add, Joanne, to that. We all talk to each other, and so we all have different subgroups depending on our internal functions. I will speak about the supplier diversity folks to tell you that we have we have convenings every quarter, and so we are convened by the association. So we talk to each other, we run names by each other, and so we share information, and so that by itself can work to the advantage of small businesses that are diverse, that are performing well with any other blue, or that are looking for elevating their own exposure as well. We also have a GPO where that's dealt directly through the association. And so at times when we go to conferences, when we come across with small diverse businesses, we also refer them to the association directly, because they, as I mentioned before, we all have different processes, and the procurement process works differently, but we as well bounce back names and information.
Thank you. Okay, so we have Bashar Hanush. Can you take yourself off mute, please?
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, I just want to say thank you to Dolores and to Mike. They've been very good in trying to let me know where things stand. I actually went through the process of filling out our documentation. They've been trying to help us find opportunity there. The only question I would have for you, Mike, as you guys look at your forecast for the rest of the year 2024 or the beginning of 2025, as I mentioned to the both of you, we currently work with a couple of blues plants today.
Mm-hmm.
What opportunities do you guys see coming, or what opportunities do you have in your foresight to say, hey, this may be coming in? In some cases, what we've done with other blues plans, they brought us to the business customers, even though there was no need, just so they could understand who we are, what we're about. I know sometimes it's hard just to be added to an RFP without knowing the vendors, what they can provide and what they can do. And I'll stop and listen.
Yeah, so my team right now is actively working with the business lines on developing a longer term strategy. So I hope, by this summer we'll have a better set of opportunities to address. This is interesting time for us here right now. I think we're trying to do everything this year. And I say that kind of jokingly, but there are a lot of strategic initiatives that we're in. And so now this is kind of a reset that we're doing to say, hey, what's coming up next? So definitely we'll look to connect the dots with the business line. Part of what we're looking to do is say, hey, what do you need to the business line? Get that all written down and take this list of diverse vendors and these opportunities and say, well, have you thought about meeting that need this way? So that's what we're working on over the next couple of months.
Mm-hmm. And I will add that, again, as part of, so understanding that there is so much potential out there, and in trying to be smart about how we connect the business line owners or category managers with that huge potential, we are maximizing in the matchmaking opportunities that are being organized by partners such as GNMSDC. We also have planned to host a vendor fair at the end of the year that will be inclusive of a selected number of vendors that are part of the supply chain, but also a very selected, and I'm not, so I'm being, I'm using the word selected only because of size, right? We cannot open this up for a large number of vendors that are not part of the supply chain, but that will be informed, as Mike mentioned, by what the needs are. And so we will use that information to be able to determine who are we extending the opportunity to.
Thank you. All right, Carl Hill. Carl, can you-
Yes, Juan. I actually had two questions. Bashar asked the question that I was going to, one of my questions, which was about commodity products versus new and innovative products. And I think you guys have responded to that because, as you know, there are a lot of new projects that BCBS would be introducing, and no one really knows what's out there, but it would give them some insight to chase it. So, Bashar, thank you very much for asking that question. The second question that I had is regarding your 4 Ps, and philanthropy is one of those things that we're very passionate about, and believe that there's some things that we can introduce into the market regarding adverse childhood experiences and well-being into those urban areas, and would just want to get a sense from you guys, or a follow-up conversation later offline, of what are some of the things that you're doing from a philanthropy plan standpoint to help you in the Rhode Island market. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. I would definitely reach out to Doris and set up some time if you're not in our network. And Doris, I know I might be speaking for you, but part of that 30 minutes is to better understand what you're offering, so we can meet that need. And then Doris, I don't know if you or Jenny would.
Yeah,
Cool.
I will. I guess that I will invite Jenny to chime in on that question.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what Mike had mentioned. I think in that conversation that you have, Doris, with some of the vendors, I think outside of just obviously the business need, just having them be aware of the various other areas where we focus on when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, I think would be really helpful, because there could just be opportunities that might slip through the cracks because we're thinking just specifically about sort of the business need coming as like through the purchasing avenue. But I think in that conversation, Doris, if there's anything that, if you need to be connected to our team, so we can talk more specifics if it's something that aligns. But we do a lot of work, Carl, with supporting local organizations that align with what we do as a health insurer, whether that is providing volunteers or providing event sponsorship, or grants for small nonprofits. There's a wide sort of variety of ways that we support philanthropically. So I think in those conversations with Doris, certainly share more specifics, and she can get you over to the right folks who oversee the philanthropy piece.
And
Appreciate you raising
call,
that.
yeah, and call, and for the other businesses that are connected, you should know that it is this starting to build this relationship is like a flow chart, and part of the next step may mean in those conversations, if there is enough interest that I'm aware from a business line owner or a category manager, or philanthropy in this case, if there is a service or product that is introduced in these conversations, then one of the things that may happen along the way is an additional meeting with that individual buyer within the company, so that that connection is made. And since they are the one that manage the technical aspect of the buy-in, when appropriate, those meetings are also scheduled.
Thank you for the question, Carl. All right, so We do have some others in the Q&A box. And as mentioned, if you do have a question that you'd like to ask live, please hit the raise hand button. So one of the questions is, are you able to share what 2023 was relative to 2023?
I think that is, I'm going to guess 23 versus 24 on the spend question. I think Doris mentioned we're just under 3% spend. We ended last year at 6%, Doris.
6.1.
Yeah, 6.1, yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and answer the next question because I think that has something to do with this. So are your spend goals of 8% just tier 1 or inclusive of tier 2? It's inclusive of tier 2. Yes, so we try to get at that target through both avenues.
Okay, another question we have from Dre Eaton is, well, first, thanks for sharing information regarding Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island. Do you currently have a contract with the company providing promotional items, apparel, and t-shirts? And how would you suggest that a diverse company engages with Blue Cross Blue Shield, seeking to be a supplier after registering in the portal?
So again, the best way to get engaged is to engage through Doris. We do purchase those things. So this is a good potential matchmaking right here. So.
Okay, the following questions I believe were already answered or will be provided with the presentation. They're regarding the portal, how to schedule time. Are there any other questions? We still have a couple minutes left.
And just to recap, Joanne, in that deck, there is a live link at the end of the presentation that I'm encouraging everyone to use. That will bring you to a calendar so that you can find the time that is convenient for you from the times that are available to schedule the 30 minutes virtual meeting. Sometimes it's overlooked, but there is a paragraph or two there that asks for capability statements for the business. So please, to the extent that you have it, I would love if you can share those ahead and any other information that you deem appropriate of the company. There will be additional information share if we move to the next step, but those are key for the beginning.
Okay, perfect. So as mentioned, the presentation with the link to book time with Doris is going to be shared after the conclusion of the webinar. So with that, if there are no other questions, thank you so much for your time today. This was really so helpful. And thank you so much for being a champion of supplier diversity and minority business development. And have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.